Creating realistic characters is probably one of the hardest things you can do in 3D. So I've created a bit of a problem for myself, because if those two will not look realistic, I'm pretty sure my film is fucked. For those who don't know, The Heist is a 3D cyberpunk short film I'm making in Blender, and it's finally time to create something that looks presentable. So yeah. No pressure. Okay, I'm not a sculptor, which is kinda bad because that's how the big guys are making their 3D models. So I think it's time to find some help. And after a bit of research, I found this amazing course and started to follow along. Since it's much harder to sculpt a female face, I decided to download a base head from Blender project and edit it to match the proportions of the head from the cyberpunk model that I used in the blockout of the movie. I obviously can't use this model in the final film because that's kinda illegal and I don't want to lose another court case. Haha. Honey, please answer my text, they are also my children. Anyway, I started following the course and began adding all the micro details that make skin look like skin. Then I baked it all into textures and began paint her skin tones and makeup. I also made her custom eyes and gave her eyebrows. And when I say those things, you must be thinking to yourself, wow, he put a lot of effort into it. I'm sure the final result is good. Okay, maybe I need to make her a custom hairstyle. Okay, maybe when I will give her a pose, it will look awesome. Fuck! It's just so fucking frustrating, because I know the characters need to look realistic in order for the movie to look good. I've spent around 10 hours on this. I stopped working for like 2 weeks on the project because I was so demotivated by the results. These models need to look perfect. That is why I decided to throw my old model to the trash and start from scratch. And this time, do it right. My redemption arc starts now because I need to redeem myself from this abomination. First, we need a good looking custom 3D head. So I hired a professional on Fiverr. He did a sculpt for me from the reference pictures I've sent him. And now I got this beautiful model back. Looking at how much better it looked, I got a lot of my motivation back and got back to work. We are so back, baby. By the way, I will still learn how to sculpt characters, but not for the project where everything depends on them looking perfect. Now that we have a 3D head, it's time to add the rest of the body. Otherwise, it would look kind of weird. So I started to sculpt the rest of the body. Psych, I already told myself that I'm not gonna do everything. I actually purchased some software to help me out with all of this. Please subscribe so I can financially recover from this. Character Creator is a very cool program that lets me import my head and retopologize it, thank you God. Yeah, it allows me to import my head and generate the rest of the body for me. I then began to texture the head and started adding things like lipstick, mascara and so on. I also started creating Kyle by creating his head and body in Character Creator, and I gotta say that it was awesome seeing these characters in motion for the first time. Now I can bring these two into Blender and edit them further. The problem at the moment is lack of clothes, and we can fix that in Blender by duplicating the main mesh and bulking it. But now the clothes look really flat. But when we add a multi-res modifier, our mesh is subdivided to millions of polygons, and I can now sculpt the folds manually. Oh my god, I wanna die. And after many hours, our clothes are finally done. However, this approach has one big downside. You see, now my clothes have millions of polygons instead of a couple thousand. If you don't know why this is bad, come here, let me just create a quick animation with this. Thankfully, there is a solution. All we need to do is bake the detail into a normal map, which essentially stores the detail into one texture. Thank God. At this point, our clothes have all this detail, but they lack an actual texture. Sadly, Blender has a very robust texture painting system, so I need to look for alternatives. Unfortunately, there's only one good software for this, Substance Painter. Now I said unfortunately because Substance is owned by Adobe and Adobe sucks for several reasons, but I'm trapped with them. Well, at least the upside of this is that we have amazing looking textures now. I did each one of them in less than half an hour. They look really good, as well as they bring a lot of realism to our models. Now you could look at this and say, hey, this is basically finished, and you would be right, because all we need to add is hair. I fucking hate hair. Not real life hair, but 3D hair. There is nothing more frustrating to me than hair systems, and it shows in my previous Victoria attempt. So to learn the proper way, I decided to start small with Kyle's eyebrows. Since the old ones are a texture and don't look really real, that is why I started replacing them, and I think the new ones look much better and overall fit him much more. Now it's time to actually create the scalp hair, so I gathered some reference and rushed into creating his hairstyle. And they actually turned out pretty decent. Really anime-like. You know, I think I take that back. Next, Victoria, eyebrows. Now, moving on to creating Victoria's hair, whoa, that will be something, because it's complex as fuck. So I gathered a ton of reference and got to work. And boom. Fucking hell. So after all of this, around 40 hours of work, now you know why the video took so long, I am so sorry. Here are the final models. I also wanted to rig them and create some cool poses for you, but that came with its own set of problems, because the weight seemed to be messed up and weight painting doesn't seem to help, as well the hair system seems broken. You see, I told you, hair is the worst thing ever. Speaking of hair, I'll also probably redo them, because I'm not really proud of how they look, so keep in mind it's all subject to change. But I will do that later, because right now I am fed up with creating characters and I actually began work on the environment, and here you can see a bit of progress on that. So subscribe so you don't miss when it's ready. I am really proud of how these models turned out, but if you're asking yourself who even are those characters and why do they look like that, well, you're in luck, because you can see the answer in this video, where I tell you about the design process and backstory of these two.